Welcome back to the Red Bull Road to Wololo Legacy Tournament. We've got the Road to Wololo qualifiers, September week 2 here. We've got DeMusliM spawning as Abbasid. He's up against Lenok today. It's game number 1, the round of 16. The winner goes through the round of 8 bracket. So I have to see who's got what it takes. So it's the first game in the best of 3, so really the person that drops this game does have another chance, but it's always nice to take that early lead now, isn't it? So we've got an Abbasid mirror with COINNU. I think I might have said Lenok earlier. COINNU here in the red trunks up against DeMusliM. So COINNU going for the mining camp. DeMusliM going for his mining camp as well, but he's put his house over here. Is he gonna perhaps put his wood line over here and get the House of Wisdom right in the center, perhaps? Yeah, that might be the case. Well, Lenok can always just go for his lumber camp over here and still have it all connected up, I think. So COINNU, everything is connected there for him. It's pretty important to try and gauge this because, I mean, they're both Abbasid, so every little advantage helps. If you can get the Golden Age kicking in, building all too earlier than your opponent, it gives you a massive boon because it's effectively giving you each of the Eco Tier 1 upgrades for free, which is pretty significant. So builds are very similar. COINNU has a slight food gathering advantage. I think that's probably all just come down to early selection speed there. So it's pretty inconsequential at this point. The build's pretty much the same. They're probably going to go for fresh foodstuffs after an economic wing. Possibly try and take a second town centre into one another and then actually look at pressuring. Because Abbasid is generally quite a macro civ. Because of that fresh foodstuffs tech, it makes it really nice to play 2 town centre without really losing out too much in terms of your unit production, because you're getting 2 villages trained up for the price of 1, so you don't really lose out on as much in terms of your military production at the same point in the game, or at the same vill count, trying to get that double vill production going as well. So COINNU's got the brass gong, while DeMusliM has the statue for Conqueror, I believe, there in the center of their town centers. So it's going to make all the difference in this game. Both our players now going to start going on their mill a little bit later than you would in, say, Abbasid or Delhi versus the other matchups, where you'd probably open mill straight away. It's because I think they're super eager to try and get this second town center as quickly as possible. Or at least at this stage COINNU is. While DeMusliM, I'm not so sure. He's cut stone at this point and he's 4 on the gold. I suppose COINNU had 1 more on the gold earlier. Might have been the case, because he's already got the gold he needs for fresh foodstuffs at this point. Yeah, DeMusliM hasn't had to take stone just yet. He's a little bit ahead in terms of the wood gathering at the moment. And behind in terms of the gold gathering, but he'll probably... Ooh, he's going to go for production here. He's going to add an early stables. Probably send some of these villagers to go gather from the berries. So he'll need the food income. And he'll go for the stone now, but it's going to be delayed compared to COINNU, because COINNU's been gathering that for a little while. He's 100 stone up already, but he's going to be down in terms of military for the moment. Although it's going to be a tough squeeze for DeMusliM to get in the next horseman. He's going to have to wait till the villagers make a trip back to the berries. He was probably best off actually having only 1 or 2 villagers build it while the rest gathered. so he could cram in the next. So he could cram in the first horseman. Because getting that stables rushed out with 4 villagers, it's not really been of any consequence at the moment. He hasn't been able to queue up the horseman till now. Like I said, he was probably better off picking up that 20 or 30 food a little bit quicker, just to try and get him out in the field quicker. So COINNU's going to go for a barracks in response. He pretty much has the stone he needs anyway, so as long as he can sit inside the TC fire with the wood line, which he'll be able to do quite easily because it's really close. It's going to be an easy second town centre for him. It's going to be a little bit quicker than DeMusliM, who's only just started gathering stone. He's up to 2 villages, and he's trickling more onto the stone as we speak. But COINNU's just over gathering stone at this point. I mean, he can always dump it in tower upgrades later on once he starts getting gold and starts putting down towers around the field. So he only needs the 300 stone, I believe. I mean, he's waiting for the wood, and you do lose gather time going to the stone. And on top of that, I guess it serves as a bit of a bait. His opponent's going to try and go for the stone while he gathers the wood safely, but COINNU's going to gather 200 resources here that'll be locked up in stone that he doesn't need. So it could have been into food or wood for another production facility and the town centre, which it looks like that's what he's going to go for anyway at this point. But yeah, COINNU, that's a shitload of stuff. Actually, is he going to go for double TC behind this? Is he trying to hold off? I think he is. He's got another 300. So here we go. I was wrong. So COINNU playing super greedy, going to go for the triple town centre behind the 1 barracks. He should be able to get this, I think, because there's a couple of spears. But bearing in mind, once he starts scattering his villagers, it means the horsemen can actually start chipping away at them. Because the spears can't cover everything. So Ville's going to fall. He's going to lose a bit of build time there as well on another. So DeMusliM just trying to keep the spears busy. So he's probably going to have to try and split the horsemen up now. Try and take an intercept on the spears, but looks like COINNU's going to get the town centre down. He's going to be going for a 3rd one somewhere. DeMuslim's going to respond in kind by going for his own 3rd town centre. So this is something you've got to keep an eye on if you think your opponent is going to go triple TC. If you can't win the game in the next 2 minutes, you're probably best off adding another one yourself. So COINNU with the fastest 2nd and 3rd town centre timing. But it's been at a slight cost in the sense that DeMuslim's got more units out in the field. The stables play is coming behind spears for COINNU, so the spears are a handy counter, don't get me wrong. And you are going to need Raxes to have man-at-arms in age 3 to really push into horsemen and archers and sort of force use of knights or siege in early castle age. But you do lose out the mobility of going horsemen first alongside your town centres. And DeMusliM, I think he'll be just behind the Ville count. He's up to the 3 TC. 33 Villes to Sykes. Oh, 32 actually, because he did drop 1 or 2 there, and it was delayed slightly as well. So that Ville gap's only going to really close, having that finish up now. And it was pretty neck and neck in terms of the Ville counts. So everything DeMusliM can get from here with this cavalry ball. Like I said, it gives him the map control. He can come in, snipe a Ville or 2, force COINNU to have to really play defensively, gather from the wood over the back here, rather than continuing to gather in here if he really wants to be safe. I do like this other town centre placement. It's going to serve as a lumber camp and a mill on the far side of the berries, which is good, because once he exhausts this, he can always come over. All of these bushes here reduce the gather time, the walk time a little bit earlier on, or overall. DeMuslim's really pressuring off this other berries here. And I mean, he's now up to spending 75 food every 20 seconds on villagers, which is going to slow down his ability to mass up units. I mean, Abbasid, compared to everyone else in this position who'd be spending 150 food for villagers every 20 seconds. It's nice in the sense that you are basically only paying for 1.5 town centers worth of villages, but even still, if you're up against Abbasid, some important to actually have access to food, because you don't really want to be investing super heavily in farms early on, because it does give your opponent the ability to play around castle age units quicker, or just take a fight with a bigger age 2 mass. So COINNU's having to invest in walling as well, constantly try and push out with the spears without really losing any. And he has now got his own horsemen out, so he's going to be able to respond much faster to DeMusliM's aggression here, and even look at mounting some of his own. He's going to do a bit of a scout here, I think. He's got some horsemen crossing the field, but there is a pretty hefty army there. A couple of camel archers in the mix as well, so these reduce the damage of the horsemen and can engage the spears at range and continue to kite them, whereas the horsemen, you know, being cavalry, it's a pretty shit trade for them against spearmen. Pretty much just a counter cavalry unit, though most spearmen, most of the time, really struggle against a ranged cavalry, even if they aren't necessarily a ranged tag, even if they've still got a cavalry tag, which is pretty much the case in all AoEs except for AoEO and AoM. Even still, the spearmen units just don't have the mobility to really intercept. So I think COINNU's going to have to look at adding quite a lot of horsemen, as well as still keeping his spears safe, or even adding some more of his own camel archers, because DeMusliM's going to have that nice debuff on attacks, 20% reduced damage on the horsemen. So COINNU trying to raid a little bit here. Neither player really able to afford castle age just yet, but COINNU adding some upgrades. He's got melee armor and melee damage coming in. DeMusliM going for melee damage than armor, it looks like. So melee damage, and he's going to add phalanx, actually switching to a lot of spearmen now. Try walling in the backside of his base. He's using 3 villages just to make it quickly as possible. Any more than that would probably be wasteful. In fact, I'd probably, considering he's safe now, he probably only needed the 1. But even still, he's going to wall off the rear of his base, be very safe. After that, he's looking to mount a push. COINNU up to 65 and 31 to 69 and 40. So DeMusliM's giving him give himself a slight edge with the vill count, sniping a couple, and really just keeping COINNU busy around the map. So COINNU going to be able to try and go for a big push here, but his army's split up with DeMusliM moving in. And he might be able to pick off a handful more vills here, deny some more gathering. Just take a nice fight where he doesn't bleed too many horsemen. He does have the camel archers and his own spearmen now to tank against. To tank and get off safe damage against the spearmen, while COINNU is forced to have to try and raid as quickly as possible here. And he's got a lot of horsemen, sorry, 12 of them, a dozen, missing out on this fight. See there now with phalanx upgrade as well, which I don't believe COINNU's got at this stage. No, so he's got no phalanx as well. His spearmen just don't have the reach, and he won't be able to hit over the shoulder of other spearmen, of other horsemen. So in stacked up fights, DeMusliM had a huge advantage there, as you saw. Even with COINNU being up an armory upgrade, phalanx is worth just as much, if not more, when you're playing with such mixed compositions that, you know, do really rely on spearmen tanking against everything else. So, got a bit of a rough exchange in both players' bases here. COINNU trying to pick a couple of vills off on the wood line, but there are spears in tow, so he's having to be very careful here. Well, DeMusliM have to start working on some of these houses. COINNU was trying to creep up here to this next wood line by the looks of things, so these houses outside of town center range, they will be able to fall relatively for free, because I think COINNU definitely come out of that a little bit worse for wear. He's down to 78 and 13. We got 78 and 35, so DeMusliM actually losing a couple more villages in that exchange, but his army, he's kept so much more of it intact at this point. He's going to bleed a couple of houses off his opponents. That's a little bit more wood down the drain there for COINNU, who's forced to now have to try and expand out the map and get some more berries, because he doesn't really have the wood to invest in a shitload of farms back at home. He started to, but he still, for now, needs to get on another berries or two, just to make sure he doesn't really run dry, because he's not forced DeMusliM even into having to worry about going for berries. So, you really don't want to be fielding too many of them, because, I mean, how many is that now? So we got 7, and they're what, 75? For non-English? So, not a cheap building, unless you're playing English, the farms. And already there is that wood gap as a result of that between our players. Neither of them really set to go to age 3. And I think DeMuslim's going to look at fielding some rams here, trying to end it in the feudal age, because he's got siege engineering, he's got a couple of upgrades now, everything except for range damage. And he's playing pretty much mass melee, other than a handful of camel archers, just to really reduce the damage to the horsemen, and then, you know, help pick off some archers or some spears. Well, COINNU trying to mount the defense. He's added some of his own archers. He's going to add camel archers and regular archers as well, which is a little bit rough considering there are so many horsemen in DeMuslim's composition. I do like the fact that there is a couple of horsemen camping these berries, but at the same time, COINNU's lost quite a few units already. He's slightly on the back foot heading into this fight, so having these guys out in the field might be a cost to him, just like it was last time. Even though it's only 4 and not 12, and we're a little bit further into the game, DeMuslim's taking a huge fight with about 150 pop into COINNU's 120, and the eco's relatively similar sized. So a couple of horsemen coming in aren't really going to be enough. They're going to get picked off straight away. Meanwhile, COINNU's going to lose a town center for his troubles. So it's game number 1 looking really rough for COINNU now. He's going to try and repair through this, but he's bleeding a shitload of villages. He's under 100 population. DeMuslim's really only lost 10 population through all this. Be able to reinforce with an awful lot of units behind this. And in fact, it looks like, has he gone castle or is, yeah, DeMuslim's fitting castle age behind this. So COINNU in a terrible spot after that fight, and GG forced to tap out. He wasn't going to be able to get the rams because DeMuslim would just evacuate those. And look at pushing with knights and veteran units behind this, and GG, well played. They'd head into game number 2.